actually right on time at 4:30. So you can imagine the potential he has. Because when you put yourself under that pressure to do to actually pace people, you better not disappoint them. So that is quite an accomplishment. I thought that's the best of all his accomplishments.
But I've done 4 hours twice before, but that was 2 decades ago.
I didn't know that.
So that was a PB for 2 decades.
Okay. So if you read your email, you would see that Brian is going to talk about absolute endurance. But it's he's attended a seminar by Dr. Greg Wells, who is an assistant professor at the University of Toronto. He's also a scientist at the Hospital for Sick Children. And Brian is going to enlighten us on all these great tips, techniques that he's learned from, heard from him, that famous Olympic or well-known Olympic athletes use that help their training. So, Brian, it's all over to you.
Hi, guys. So as Ray was saying, it's a seminar by Dr. Greg Wells, PhD. And he works with a lot of Olympic athletes, Vancouver and Beijing Olympics. He was on TV. He was doing all the science components on CTV News and CBC News when they're doing the Olympic coverage. And so Brian Williams would have him up there, and he'd be talking about, the science behind the different events that these guys were doing and their recovery and their regeneration. So his talk 2 months ago, I went down to an hour and a half talk, so we're going to summarize it in about 20 minutes. It was down at a clinic down in Toronto, and it was on recovery, regeneration, and peak performance. And he's just finished writing a book and released it called Super Bodies. And if you're looking for something that's kind of a little bit more in-depth, a little bit more sciencey, this is a great book. And at the talk, he was selling them for $20, so the 35 online. And if anyone wants to borrow it, just let me know and you can. So the talk, we're going to talk about several different components that he mentions about trying to maintain peak performance, trying to get you to recover faster. Some of it's a little science-based, but I dumbed down his talk a little bit. Some of it was pretty in-depth. But if you've got questions, we'll go through and chat about them at the end. And we'll go through and just talk about each point a little bit. Some of the stuff, some of the nutrition stuff I've left out because it's definitely not my strength. Chatting with Lindsay or Gail Sauer, the naturopath, who deals with a lot of sports nutrition stuff, they'd be better ones to talk about. So he talks about, best example would be Michael Phelps. At the Beijing Olympics, he won 8 gold medals in about 6 days, and he did something like 17 races to do that in. So not only do you have to be fast and super efficient in the pool, but you also have to be super efficient out of the pool. And so that's what we're talking about today, about what you do as soon as you're done your workouts, and that sort of thing. So with him, he had to have perfect nutrition, sleep, warm-ups, cool-downs, hydrations, even psychology. That's very important. Recovery time in the normal person is 3 to 7 days from a hard workout. So we talk with the hard workouts, we're talking about doing hill work, speed workouts, all-out race day conditions, that sort of thing. This can be brought down to 12 hours or less for the performance athletes. With this talk, it was centered around Greg's clients who are Olympic rowers, Olympic swimmers, Olympic kayakers, that sort of thing. So we're not going to be able to get to that level, obviously, because it took them, a decade to do that. But if we can drop that down from 4, 5, 6, 7 days down to 2 or 3 days recovery time, that'd be great for us. The pros, they're doing obviously a lot more training hours, 20 to 25 hours a week. Hydration is one of the first things that they look at. So Michael Phelps, what's the first thing he does when he gets out of the pool, other than collecting his bling? Drinking. The reason for that is 1% loss of water in your body is equal to 5% loss of muscle ability to contract, or efficiency in the muscle. He mentions about trying to drink throughout the day, minimum 2 liters, more if you're training harder. He looks at what are some of the signs and symptoms that you're needing a little bit more water. So looking at, most obvious is urine color. If it's really, really dark and smelly, it's because you're dehydrated, and you need to increase your hydration stores. Energy levels, thirst, even headaches. The fitter you are, the less you need of water, because your body learns to retain salt, keeping cellular fluid levels up. So that was kind of a neat thing for me, because I'm thinking, sure, you're more efficient at everything, but I didn't ever really think about keeping your salt fluid, or your salt levels up, your sodium levels up, to maintain the cellular fluid levels. Timing of water. He mentions about going through and having it constantly throughout the day. First thing in the morning, a couple of cups, sipping through the day with meals and as needed. Trying to make sure, if you can, room temperature warm water is apparently a little bit easier to absorb by the gut. So the body does, the gut doesn't need to warm it up to absorb it first. I find the colder the water, the more I drink, therefore I'm more hydrated. So in the end, it's what works best for you. Looking at sports drinks, making sure that you only use those during your heavy training or workouts. Typically, he suggests only in workouts over 90 minutes long, because you're not going to be depleting your energy stores that much that you need to refill it that quickly, unless it's 95 degrees out. He talks about sports drinks being so full of sugars that they can be so bad for your body unless you're in a big major workout. And obviously we know as we're training for halves or fulls, you need to keep your glycogen stores up if you can. Caffeine can enhance performance, and it should be taken 30 to 60 minutes before your major competitions or workouts. Has antioxidants in it, but many negative attributes as well. We don't want to use it as a crutch, because high use can lead to heart disease and cancer. I knew it was bad for you, but I didn't know about the cancer. He talks about active recovery versus cool down. Ray talks about quite often when we're going out doing our speed workouts or our hill workouts, we've got a nice easy cool down to get back to the store after doing our hills or the track work. And that's actually a lot more important than you think about, in that it takes a long time for the body to work the lactic acid out of our system. We want to go through and make sure we've got 15 to 20 minutes of cool down period, more so for high intensity workouts, the hills, the speed. If it's just a long, slow, distant workout, we don't really need to work on that because we haven't built up as much lactic acid as we do when we're going above our electrical threshold. How slow or how fast should we be going when we're doing that cool down or active recovery? As he says, 60 to 65% of maximum heart rate. If we go much slower or much lower than that, your body's not efficiently pushing blood throughout the body to flush out the acids and the lactic acid. He mentions also that lactic acid can stay in your body for a long time. It can stay in there for hours at a time. So if you're going out and doing a big workout first thing in the morning before you go to work, even if you go out on your coffee break or lunch break and do a fast-paced walk, that's enough to help flush out some of the lactic acid out of the body. One of the new things he mentions about the key new way of thinking about recovery is inflammation in the body. And this was kind of a really neat thing because no one really talks about inflammation in the body and how inflammation in the body is actually a good thing. We always talk about compression socks and ice baths and that. And one of the things he's saying is that with Olympic athletes, they actually rely on some of that inflammatory process to help the body heal. So inflammation or oxidative stress stimulates the body to improve. Mechanical stress causing structural damage. The immune system works to fix this like a cut in the finger. So if you've got a cut in your finger, it gets inflamed, it's sore, it's red. So challenges to get the body pain-free faster or allow the body to go through inflammation process and tissue repair to get the body stronger. So do we want to get the body stronger or do we want to be out of pain? And it's more important that during our training cycles, we get the body to repair itself, to get stronger, not to get pain-free. Later on, when we're a lot closer to our competitions, a couple weeks out, then it's a lot more important to make sure we're pain-free and get rid of that inflammation. So ice baths, ice cold baths, pneumatic boots, compression sleeves, garments, stops or abnormally blocks the inflammatory response. This is physiologically rational in training, or it's not physiologically rational in training. You can do this, but only the 3 weeks before or during competitions. The rest of the time, the inflammation is actually okay for your body because it makes your body grow back stronger, more efficient. So even during major training camps, when they're down with cyclists, the Canadian cycling team, or kayakers, they're not using ice baths because they're trying to get the body, they're taxing the body to get it to heal back faster. He talks about nutrition, high nutrient quality, as we all know, level compared to low calories, vital for months before the events. He really places a huge emphasis on your nutrition through the workouts that you're doing the weeks and months before your competition, not so much race day nutrition. To heal the muscles as fast as possible and get stronger, that's our goal with the nutrition. We want to get those building blocks back in. Protein is more important doing hills and speed work due to breakdown. In long, slow distance run, carbs are more important because you don't have the same muscle damage that you do when we're doing the major hill workout speeds. Beans, lentils, fish, broccoli are great. One of the neat things that I found out was broccoli has actually 2 times the amount of proteins that meat does, ounce for ounce. So if you're grabbing something like, we all know that chicken has a lot of protein in it, but broccoli actually has more if you figure, 5 ounces of broccoli compared to 5 ounces of meat. That was real news to me, and so now I'm going to make sure I have my broccoli after my workouts. Mitochondria break down fats and glycogen. What's that? Mitochondria break down fats and glycogen to make energy, or the ATP in Krebs cycle in the body. This causes oxidative damage, or like rust on a car. These different items reduce the oxidative process, and they work as antioxidants. So one of the great things is chocolate, especially 80% cocoa and above. That's a real antioxidant. Colorful fruits and vegetables, nuts, tomatoes, broccoli. One of the things he mentions about with tomatoes are great, especially if you've got them in like crushed tomatoes or tomato sauce, because tomatoes are actually anti-prostate cancer, and broccoli is anti-cancer in women. So those are important things to have. Again, it was kind of neat to see all these different things that you start learning hearing other speakers. You need to get the maximum number of nutrients per calorie. One of the things he talked about was eosinophils. And eosinophils repair tissue. The higher numbers in your bloodstream, when you're closer to in your taper, the more efficient your body is at repairing itself. It shows the highest improvement in taper, and those eosinophils eat fungus, virus, bacteria, and damaged tissues in your body. They're made of proteins, and they're powered by carbohydrates. So we know that right after a major workout, we're supposed to eat a lot of proteins and carbohydrates. Proteins to help the building blocks of the body, but also to help the eosinophils, which support the body. So what this comes into is that after a major workout, like a big competition, your body is so depleted in nutrients. You need the nutrients to help build up the body, but also to help the immune system. And that's where the eosinophils come in. And that's why after major competitions like Boston, or you're doing Disney, because you've got so much of a workout over 2 or 3 days, your body is so much more susceptible to colds and flus and that sort of thing. Your immune system has tanked because of the nutrients not being there for the parts of the body. Trying to avoid dairy. He talks a lot about inflammation. Trying to avoid dairy because it can be pro-inflammatory. The body doesn't have the digestive enzymes in it to break down milk. It can break down other things like goat's milk and that sort of thing, but not dairy. So with that, it makes, one of the neat things was that it actually makes the body more acidic when you have milk. And you think milk is more of a, if you think of the basic to acidic line of things like milk to vinegar, milk actually makes the body more acidic, which was pretty interesting. And it actually leaches calcium from the bone. The sugars in the milk are stored in the liver as well. So really kind of neat stuff that I'd never heard about.
No chocolate milk?
Chocolate milk he hates. He talks about how bad it is. I know. So why? Because of not having the digestive enzymes to break it down, because it's so full of sugars, and then your liver starting to store all that. I like a good glass of. He talks a little bit about nerve conduction, electrical output in the body, and synapse releasing neurotransmitters. The body needs fats to aid the nervous system. After hard workouts, the body has used up so much of the neurotransmitters in the body that your nervous system is starting to tank out as well. So we need to build that up. How do we do that? One of the things is omega-3s. That aids in the reduction of the effect that it has on the neurotransmitters. So some of the different sources of omega-3s, fish are great. Ground flaxseed, because the regular flaxseed, the body can't break it down properly. So ground flaxseed is important. Chia seeds, nuts, coconut oil. Coconut oil, he was mentioning too that it's antiviral and antibacterial. Nice. And these products are all anti-inflammatory, helping the body to heal faster. The next section that he starts to get into is talking about stretching. And a lot of the stuff was pretty kind of normal from things that we're starting to hear of how stretching thoughts are changing a little bit. Stretching the muscle has several different organisms in it, or organs in it, called GTOs, or Golgi tendon organs, and muscle spindles. These are responsive to stretch of the muscle, to the tension, and the speed of the contraction as well. So ultimately, stretching can help to relax or turn off those nerves that are really important when we're looking for a big workout. So when we're doing speed or hill or are doing really intensive workouts. So what he's suggesting is not stretching before the workouts, because it turns off those nerves and you want to activate them a little bit more. So how can we work towards that? So he mentions a little bit about doing more dynamic stretching. So you'll see sometimes some of the people at the Olympics, they're going through it, they're doing range of motion exercises, but they're making them a little bit faster. You'll see some of the sprinters going through and doing stuff like the drills that Ray has us do, doing some of the A, B's, and C's, to make sure that we've got the proper range of motion that we need, but we haven't truly stretched out the muscles, so they're less efficient. He talks a lot about sleep, and one of the things that they did at the Olympics, which was kind of neat, was they actually took big, huge sheets of black felt with them for all the athletes, and they put them up in the windows of the rooms to help block out the light. Why? Because light comes in through the eyes, it hits the optic nerve, and it goes up to the pineal gland. And the pineal gland, it starts to release melatonin. Melatonin is what's responsible for, or one of the major things that's responsible for sleep in the body. It's released naturally at certain times of the day, but certain things can turn that off. So with your body, if you're getting in any light into that optic nerve, that's going to start to decrease the release of melatonin in the body. So with that, how can we do that? We can make sure that we've got a much darker room at night, that it's cooler in there, even so much as bright alarm clocks, dimming that down or turning the light in it off. So you just have to touch the alarm clock to see what time it is, instead of it being so bright. The ones that display the light up on the ceiling even are bad, because just that little bit of light can really affect you. One of the slides that they had up, he mentions avoiding caffeine for 6 hours before you plan on sleeping, so that's a long time. Finish your dinner 2 hours before sleeping. No screen time for 60 minutes before sleeping. So your cell phone, your iPad, your computer, even your TV, because it flashes 30 to 60 times per second, that light overstimulates the optic nerve, shutting off the melatonin in your brain again. Okay? So trying to avoid that. Creating a stress-free environment. So just that psychological stress can make a big difference as well. Exercising daily promotes sound sleep, but plan to stop exercise a couple of hours before bedtime if possible. Keeping the room a little bit cooler, 21 degrees. Go to bed before midnight, promotes deeper sleep and better recovery. Avoid late night snacks. Take a hot shower to relax, but research has shown that a rapid change in body temperature can help trigger drowsiness. So shut it after you've had the heat going on your shower. finish it off with 1 or 2 minutes of cold water. That also helps with circulation in the body. Maybe not for her. Develop your own sleep routine and then stay consistent with it. And sleep in as dark a room as possible. The Australian Institute for Sport, they give out to all their athletes a big handout twice a year to help them with their competitions and with their training to help maximize their sleep in that. A couple of things that they mention about managing training loads: don't increase it too quickly. Manage other stresses in your life. This affects the ability to recover. If you have hard week at work, you're really super stressed, you're doing a ton of hours, don't worry about doing major mileage that week, because you know next week is going to be a little bit easier at work. Make sure you swing your major workouts to that week, because it'll balance your body's ability to recover. Okay? Increase the quality and quantity of sleep if you can. Hand washing is important. Again, we talked about eosinophils. When your body's training or taxed super hard from your workouts, your immune system starts to tank. Make sure that if you know your immune system is going to be tanking, do things to help support it. Even simple things like hand washing are important. Watching out if you're on a plane and you're traveling. So many of the people here got sick right after Disney, not only because they were running Disney and the huge change in weather, but also because they're on a plane, recycled air with so many other people that might be sick as well. And your body doesn't have the body to fight that off. Athletes typically get sick 1 or 2 times a year. General population 3 to 5 times a year. But we are much more likely, or the Olympic athletes are much more likely, especially right after the competitions. Foods and nutrition's focus increases, boosting the immune system, maximizing quality and quantity of sleep. And that's his hour-and-a-half talk, condensed down to give you the nitty-gritty. There was a lot more other stuff talking about nutrition, about vitamin C and iron, and how important that is to help build up the red blood cells in the body and that as well. He has offered to come up to Markham and do a big hour-and-a-half, 2-hour talk for our group, and I'll get some ideas from people if they're interested in that later on down the road, like 4 or 6 weeks out from now. And we're talking to possibly Unionville Cycle Club. Did anyone have any questions? Excellent.
I thought it was very good information.